so much for joining me this evening. Kayli is originally from Texas. She's also lived in Australia, and now she's here in Harrogate, and we're actually both at the same Hope Church. And so we've gotten to know each other over the past year, even despite lockdown. We managed to have a socially distanced coffee in the garden when we were allowed to at one point. I've just gotten to know Kayli and just to admire the woman of God and faith that she is, and just how she's dealt with some really difficult times in the last few years. And I just have always been waiting for a chance to actually chat to her more about it. And I thought at the same time, let's share it with others, because I know others would be just as encouraged as I have been through her and her story. So Kayli is a full-time mom. She's also a cheerleading and gymnastics coach, and she leads a dance ministry called Mighty Dancers.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Yeah, I'm really excited. Really honored that you asked me, and yeah, can't wait to get into this.
So I'm just going to dive straight in. If you want to maybe start off by telling us about a tough time that you went through, and I think are still going through, which is probably to do with your son Ollie, who is ill.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So yeah, Ollie is our son. He is 3.5 years old right now. And yeah, we've been going through a journey with him, with his illness, which is mitochondrial disease. And specifically, he has Lee's syndrome within that. Yeah, so we're still on this journey, but it's been a lot better lately. But yeah, I would say the first year of his life was definitely really, really tough. Yeah, when he was first born, he seemed like he was healthy. Everything seemed really, really fine. And then kind of 4 months into it, we knew that something just wasn't right. Like he was losing weight, and yeah, so that was hard because it was, yeah, a lot of kind of questions and a lot of maybe guilt, or have I done something wrong as a mom? Did I not see something? Did I do something wrong when I was pregnant with him? Like, just so many questions. And of course that's just sort of lies, like just being thrown at me. But yeah, so that was tough. And then we went through this whole season of just trying to figure out what was wrong. So it was going to all different, doctor's appointments, and different, even, looking into like holistic everything we could really. It was really busy. It was really stressful. It was scary. So he had to have a surgery. He had to have a surgery around 8 months. And at this point, at 8 months after the surgery, he was doing pretty well. Like he hadn't hit a lot of his developmental milestones. So he wasn't like sitting or, yeah, just even trying to like pull to stand, or things that a lot of kids at that age would. But he was, he had good eye contact, and he would smile and laugh, and things like that. But after his surgery, like every day from that point after, he just started to really just fade away. Like his energy levels. So mitochondrial disease is something where kids who have it, or adults who have it, just don't produce the same amount of energy as everybody else. So, and this became affected even more so after his surgery. So he was just losing his energy. He got to a point where he wouldn't even smile at all. Nothing you could do would make him smile. And he wouldn't even like cry. I remember once getting a bunch of blood drawn, and like the needle went in, they were pulling the blood out, and he like didn't even flinch. He was just so weak, and so hard to see him, because he used to always be so smiley, and full of joy, and just to see him sort of, yeah, I mean, fading away, slipping away at this point. So yeah, we ended up getting hospitalized. This was again around 9 months. And when he was in the hospital, like they checked all of his, vitals, and everything actually checked out. Like it looked okay, but yet by looking at him, you could tell like he wasn't okay. And that was kind of almost even worse, because it's like there's nothing we can do. Like, and there isn't actually a cure for mitochondrial disease or Lee's syndrome. So it's just a matter of treating the symptoms. So while we were in the hospital that day, and this was, one of the toughest days, but our consultant, our neurologist, just pulled my husband Brett and I aside and just said, look, like, Ollie's probably not going to make it. He's not going to make it much longer. So, here's some forms that you need to sign about like do not resuscitate type things, and or if we wanted to, or if we didn't make that choice, here's some information about a hospice, and basically was just gonna send us home. There was nothing they could do in the hospital. We kind of knew that was coming, to be honest. You could look at him and kind of tell that's where it was heading, and it was very emotional, very difficult up to that point. But it was really interesting because as she told us that, I remember just like being pretty calm about it, and just I even shared with her. I was like, if that's what's supposed to happen, like Ollie will be in heaven, he'll be with Jesus, and I don't want that, but yeah, he'll be completely healed at that point, and as I was saying it, I was thinking, like, how am I saying this? How am I not like bawling, crying? And even she was just kept saying, like, I'm just so kind of shocked at like the way that y'all are handling this and how calm you are. And truly, like the verse that says, the peace that surpasses all understanding will guard your heart and mind. Like truly, it was just in that moment. I don't know where, it was not anything from within me and my own self, but I just was calm. And then at the same time, though, like I respected her, professional opinion and her expertise, but at the same time, I just also had this sort of calm resolve that, like, God's in control. Like, you can tell me this, and that's fine. I appreciate it, but I still have hope. Like, I still don't necessarily believe that this is the end. So yeah, that. And I can carry on.
Yeah, carry on.
Pretty much immediately, like, we got home, and of course Brett and I were emotional, and we were just sort of processing, and we were trying to really cherish, really sweet quality time with Ollie that night. And I started messaging like a friend from church and just saying, tomorrow morning we're bringing Ollie to church. We need to all rally. We need to all like pray for him. And yeah, it was amazing. Like, the church that we went to at the time was quite a big church, and so after the service, they just invited anybody who wanted to come into like a large room. And I mean, so many people showed up, people I didn't know. And it was amazing. Like, it was just so beautiful to see like our community gather together and support us and support him, and like just truly like believing and yeah, just like fighting for him, and so yeah, that was amazing. And he was very, sort of non-responsive at that time as well. And you could see that definitely. But yeah, we all still had hope. And so we all just prayed. We went home to Houston, where all my family were that next weekend. And so I know that was just, again, like we all just kind of rallied together. And I remember the very next Sunday, who's still doing okay a week later, still kind of where he was. Again, we went to my parents' church, and, everybody, like, we had the whole family, Brett's family, my family, up at the altar, people laying hands on him. It was really powerful. And so that sort of happened 2 weeks in a row. And then he just, over time, like he just started to bounce back. He just, before, after the surgery, how he was like, you could say he was like going down, down, down every day. And then I think somewhere around there, he just kind of started to climb back up and just get better and better every day, to the point where he was laughing again, and he was, engaging and babbling, and all the things that um that he was able to do before the surgery. So yeah, it was truly a miracle. And he wasn't fully healed. It wasn't a miracle in the way of like, okay, well, here he is, he's now suddenly a normal, normal developing child. But like that, in that moment, like that was enough. That was what we needed. It was a miracle. We could see the change in him, and we were just, from that point on, like so grateful for every day that he's with us is a miracle. Like every day is something to be cherished. And yeah, it's just like completely changed our outlook on life. And yeah, we're just so thankful.
And I mean,
So
now
yeah.
he's over 3.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know. Yeah, he's had a great couple of years. And the life expectancy for someone with Leigh syndrome, and especially kind of at the level that he has it, is not, is kind of like 2 to 3 years, we've been told. But he's surpassed that, and he's just doing really great. And so, yeah, still a journey though.
Yeah. I mean, I think, there's still a lot that, he's obviously not able to feed himself, all of those type of things that you're doing for him on a daily basis, aren't there? So
Yes, yeah. So he takes all of his feed through his tube inside of his tummy, which is actually what the surgery was at 8 months, was because he was losing weight, he couldn't swallow properly. So they placed that tube in his tummy, and now that's how, he gets his nutrition and everything. So yeah, it's a lot of work. He can't walk or anything, so he's getting heavy now. And yeah, it's definitely challenging. But he's literally the most joyful, smiley, happy, sweet, calm, like amazing little boy. And just like such a gift, really. Like him, and just all the things that we've gone through and we've learned have just been such a gift, from God. It's been incredible.
So Kayli, how did you stay connected to the Lord during all of what was happening at that time?
Yeah, good question. It was such a busy time, like especially from the 4 months point when we sort of found out something was wrong, until around that point, whenever he kind of started getting better. Like I was running on fumes. I was so constantly busy. Like my mind was, this is all I thought about. I was like, how do I like just help him survive? That's all I wanted to do, was just make sure that he would stay alive a little bit longer. But it was always praying. It was always just, in the car running to this doctor's appointment, or this, it was, or as I'm like washing his bottles and syringes and things, like any chance I got, it was just to try and keep my thoughts from going elsewhere. It was just praying. And then the other thing I think was really important at the time is, like, it was even hard to pray. I was just praying the same thing over and over. And so another thing during that time, especially just being so busy, was just getting everybody else to pray for me. Like just tapping into everybody that I knew who were Christians, who weren't. Like, I don't care what you believe in, pray, like, please. And because I needed that. I just needed that support at that time. And so I know that made a huge difference.
And so true, and actually so important for us to remember, when we know others who are going through a time like you are, that actually praying for them is one of the best gifts we could be giving them, isn't it? Just praying for strength. I mean, I know when I've gone through hard times as well, you can feel when people are praying for you, can't you? I'm sure you felt that as well. You're actually carried by their prayers a lot of the time on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you maybe
Yeah.
describe a bad day that you had at this time, and what you did to try and sort of get through a bad day?
Yeah. So I know, yeah, I mentioned the day at the hospital, and that definitely was a bad day, but it actually, again, like it, it was more of a peaceful kind of thing. But I would say after he got better, then I think that's when sort of more of the worry started to set in for me, actually, because it was like leading up to that, I barely even had time to sort of worry or think about it too much. Like I just was just in this zone of, yeah, figuring out what was going on. Um, and after that, though, it was more like, okay, this really traumatic thing has happened and we got through it, but like, is it going to happen again, and when and how, and what's it going to be like next time? So that's when all the worries started setting in, I would say. And yeah, there was a day I specifically remember where I was just really just crying out to God. I remember I was in the rocking chair in Ollie's room, um, and I literally just was so full of emotion. I was exhausted, and I just was crying out to God, like, why? What is going on? Like just sobbing, just in tears, really emotional. And I actually in that moment heard God speak to me, and it was very this was probably like the first and maybe even only time ever where, like, you know how sometimes you think, oh, I think God's speaking to me, but maybe that was like my own thought, but this
Yeah.
was clearly like almost like audible. I think just in what he just said, loosen your grip.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was not anything that like I would have even thought of. You know what I mean? Like I just wasn't. And actually when he said that to me, I like at first I was basically kind of like in denial. I was like, I don't want you to tell me that, God. Like, I don't want to loosen my grip. What do you mean by that, God? Like,
Mm.
I'm thinking that he's basically saying, you know, this is sort of the beginning of the end, Kaylee. Like, you need to start letting go. Like, you need to start getting comfortable with what's about to happen. So I was like, I'm not loosening my grip. Like, I'm hanging on. And I really was like hanging on for dear life. I literally had, not physically, but like I had like a death grip on Ollie at the time, spent a lot of time after that really just like meditating on those words. Okay, well, loosen my grip. I specifically remember talking to my uncle at the time. He's a pastor, and he was telling me, like, when your hands are closed so tightly, you can't receive any help from the Lord. You're not open to that, right? And I think I was trying so hard to do everything in my power to just like, I can save Ollie if I just do this. I'm his mom. Like, I have to do this. And I wasn't giving God the space to work in his life. And so that's what he was trying to tell me. And he really taught me a huge lesson in just trusting him and letting go of control. Like, of course, it's a balance of, um, yes, like I'm his mom. I'm gonna do everything I can to give him the best possible care. I'm gonna fight for him with doctors and whoever I need to. I'm gonna make sure he gets the best care. But at the same time, once I've done that, you just leave it in God's hands. He's in control. Um, and it reminds me of the verse too and this is one of my favorite verses, that my grace is sufficient for you because my power is made perfect in your weakness. So it's basically like in his weakness, that is where God's power is able to work. And so it's just about, yeah, it just taught me a huge lesson um, in just surrendering, like just trusting in him and letting him do his work. And yeah, just trying to loosen my grip, but also trust that doesn't, he didn't tell me let go. He didn't say let go of Ollie. He just said, you can still hold on to him. You're his mom. You hold him, you care for him. But but you need to release some of that, that just, tense. And that is how I felt at the time. And so, yeah, those are words, that I still just remind myself all the time, and just live by those words now, like loosen your grip, just relax, let God take control where he, because he is completely in control, of course. And we always like to think that we are, until something like this happens. And then you really realize, okay, God, like I can't heal him in my own power. I can't do anything. Like, this is, I'm fully reliant on you.
I think that's so powerful, Kayli. I think, and it's such a good point you raise. And I think any of us who've gone through tough times would have that same struggle of surrender versus control. And we love control as humans, don't we? And I think we all get a shock when we realize we're not in control. Surely COVID has been one of the classic examples to the world that we really are not as in control as we like to think we are. And I love how you've shared about what the Lord said about loosen your grip, that he didn't tell you to let go. It's not that we do nothing. We play a role, but we aren't so tightly gripping on that we so tense. And there's actually a peace, isn't there, with loosening our grip a bit and actually allowing God to be God and us to do the bit that we can do. And in whatever that situation is, as you say, you can't heal him. You can bath him. You can make sure he gets his medicine. You can make sure he gets his food, but it's God who's the healer.
Yeah. Exactly. It's doing those things in the moment, doing all those practical things, of course, but then when you go to bed at night, you can't just keep constantly thinking, oh, what else can I do? Or worrying, is he okay in there? Is he not? Like, I need to go to sleep. I need rest. Like, God, you take over from here. Like, you watch him during the night. All those things. Just don't I really couldn't let it consume my thoughts anymore.
Kayli, you might feel like you've covered this already, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add around the biggest battle you had to you fight during this time in your heart and mind.
I've always had this sort of thing in the back of my mind, this lie or this, attack from the enemy that's just saying, am I doing enough? I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. And it was, again, just you have to do as much as you can do, and then just let God do the rest. It was also just, I guess, stop asking sort of why this happened in a bad way, and starting to look at more of like the beauty in. And it's the same, like, I think the same thing with like COVID, for example. We're all talking about that now, but like, we're going through hard times. It's really bad in many ways, but how can you flip it around and see the beauty? And so it was the same thing with Ollie, of rather than just saying like, why has this happened to him, Lord? Why did you made him this way? Why did you make him this way? But saying, God, like, look at him, like he's so happy, he's so full of joy. And look, like his big sister Ava now, like, is learning to be so like caring, and just like she's surrounded a lot by people of all different like abilities and disabilities, and just getting to be brought up in that sort of environment, I think, is really good for her. And then like, yeah, Brett and I have both just learned how to literally just cherish every day, like just be so grateful and just not take anything for granted. And there's so many just really beautiful aspects of this terrible illness. And also like the families that we've met, we have a great network with other families, because it is such a rare disease too, that we have some connections with people like in the US and here in England now. And you just, because it is so rare, like you just kind of cling to those few families that are going through the same thing. And so yeah, there's just, yeah, like I know God's doing really big things, and he's not finished. And one other verse that like I always cling to as well. Let's see. Yeah. So it's he who began a good work in you will see it through to completion in the day of Christ Jesus. And yeah, so I always cling on to that one. I'm just like, you know, God, you started this miracle, you healed him, like you're gonna see it through. And I just keep believing, and I just keep holding on to that. And
That's
yeah.
incredible. I think just the way, as you say, that you've learned to just appreciate every day that you're given and see it for the gift and live it to its all, and enjoy, instead of asking why, and letting that rob you of the joy of the moment and the present that you do have. I think that's so powerful.
Mm.
Um, is there anything you wanted to share just around how you have sensed the Lord during this time, as in um, any whether it was any kind of gifts you specifically felt from him, or just his presence, or anything around that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, just the fact that he spoke those words to me, like I've just held on to those. And just that everything about that whole experience was so cool, that I was like being so vulnerable with him and so emotional and crying out to him, and just knowing that he was listening, like, and he spoke back. And just that, like, yeah, his presence, just that I know if he got me through those seasons and that difficult time, and he was so close to me. And that's because I had no other choice. I couldn't go, like, no one or nothing else was gonna give me the peace, that I was looking for in those moments, except for him. And so just knowing how close he was to me during that times, it just gives me that hope and that, like, faith in him, that he's not ever going to leave me, like, no matter how hard anything gets in my life or in the rest of, this journey with Ollie and anything else, that he's always going to be there, and I'm going to be okay because of him. So
Mm. It's amazing. I know dance is a big part of your life, so I don't know if you want to share a bit about the role that that's played and how you've used that in your walk with the Lord.
yeah, definitely. Actually tonight, just before we got on the call, I felt I was getting a little tense, and I was like, let me just dance, loosen up. So yeah, no, it's been a tool that I've been using. I think it was around the time of after Ollie had been healed, but we were still, he still had the disease that he had. Is when I started to lead dance classes, actually. And it was sort of the beginning of what is now Mighty Dancers. This was back whenever I was in Texas. But yeah, it was just a really good thing at the time to take my focus off of him 24/7. Like, you know what? No, I'm still supposed to enjoy life and do things that I love and share this with others. And I really felt God was calling me to lead dance classes and teach people how to dance, not just, the physical side of it, but as a way of worship. And for me, it was so special to me because it was a way of releasing, all that stress and all these problems and these bad things going on throughout the day, and then just physically letting go of that and dancing it out. And so yeah, it was really powerful for me. And I just felt God saying that it was not just meant for me, it was meant for a lot of other people as well. And it's just a way of also, like, again, taking your focus off of the bad things, the hard things in life, and just praising God and just like focusing on him and his goodness. Um and yeah, just praising him. And when you do that, it gets your focus off of all the other bad stuff, right? You just leave feeling so much more full of, joy and just love and peace and freedom. And so all those things, yeah, just, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Kayli. This has just been so encouraging. And I must say, I mean, I get to be part of your dance class at the moment, your Mighty Dancers. And it really, I think a lot of the healing that you have walked through, the processing and the freedom that you walk in and the joy and the hope comes across. So even when we're dancing with you, we pick that up as well, in the spirit. And so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing this evening, and thank you for the hope that you give to others, whether it's through your dancing, through sharing, or just as a family, that as an example of really walking through something really challenging, but walking through it in such a godly way, and doing it so well. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.